We gotta do something about this. That looks okay, right? Oh, there's this other thing. I guess we'll just put it right here. I think it's actually time, based on the green screen and a whole bunch of other factors. The fact that this hat has basically changed color. Like, it's really hard to see, but that's two different yellows. That yellow and that yellow were originally the same. Time to retire this bad boy. Plus, it's also starting to break and all that good stuff. So we're gonna put Pikachu there. It's time to rep some Dragon Ball. I don't think this is anyone's like symbol. It's not like on anybody's gi or anything. From what I could find online, it's from Dragon Ball, something to do with like Oolong and his little saga that he had. But anyways, we're gonna be repping this because it doesn't interfere with any of the actual green screen stuff. See? So you all are here for the final deep dive for this month. I have to say, I was getting kind of worried that we were actually gonna end up doing Suicune. There were some people that still voted for Suicune even after we said we don't want to do Suicune, but I counted those votes because, you know, I'm an honest person. That's what I set out to do. So after all this said and done though, we do have Arcanine today. So good old fire dog thing? Is it a dog? So Arcanine is a pure fire type Pokemon, maxing out at level 40 with 15s across the board at 3,029, which is pretty large. Now, of course, with a 0-1 attack, 14 defense, and 15 stamina at 18.5, you can hit that 1498, which does allow you to have a great stat product inside of the Great League. And according to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I have ran, Arcanine should be around 65th in bulk and 53rd in stat product, which is kind of middle of the road. There's like 92 participants, so right around that 60, 50-ish kind of mark, we're treading pretty low on the rating there. But we know that our moves can bring it back for us here. Now, of course, all of this does come from our base stats here with a 227 on attack, 166 defense, and a 207 on stamina. That is looking pretty good. If these two were just swapped, that would be like freaking amazing. So moving on to our moves here, we do have a plethora of moves to actually choose from. So we actually have 8 moves in total. The only fast move that it actually excluded was Bite, and the only reason that I excluded it is because I could not find a group of matchups that were better with Bite than they were with the other 2 moves written here. Fire Fang and Snarl definitely performed better in all of the testing that I did through simulations than Bite did. If you have Bite, it's Legacy at this point, I think. It's fine. It's great. Keep it. Don't do anything with it, of course, but it just didn't work out for this particular cup, as Fire Fang and Snarl definitely put up way better numbers. But of course, we will go through the stats for Bite here. It's 2 energy per turn for 4 damage per turn, since we do not carry a dark typing, though it does not get Stab. And that kind of takes us into Fire Fang here for 2.5 energy per turn. We do get 3.5 damage per turn, which after Stab does get bumped to that 4.2. And then Snarl here for 3 1/3 energy per turn. It is the most energy per turn move that we do have. And then it does get a 2.67 damage per turn. And of course, because we do not carry that dark typing, yet again, no stab on Snarl. What can I say about these 2 moves? Well, they perform very similarly in a lot of areas, and we're gonna get to that. So it kind of came down to a toss-up between Fire Fang and Snarl when I was doing a lot of these simulations, but I have a way to figure out which one is actually better. So now let's actually move into our charge moves here. So the only 3 that we do have up here are Wild Charge, Crunch, and Flamethrower. The other 2 that are possible to have are Fire Blast and Bulldoze. I didn't feel like either of those 2 really propelled Arcanine any higher than we currently had him. Flamethrower is our fastest stab-based charge move. Fire Blast, while it does have crazy amounts of damage, it does cost a lot more, which slows us down so much. And then Bulldoze, because it's actually such a horrible payoff, it was kind of like, do we really want to like have such a mediocre move? Like if it had stab, it would make it a lot more enticing, but because we don't have stab with it, it was just kind of underwhelming in a lot of situations, so I decided not to even include it on the board here. Now the ones that we do have though, Flamethrower, Wild Charge, and Crunch here are pretty solid. They're all relatively fast, they all relatively cost about the same, but they're a lot more enticing in a lot of ways compared to both Fire Blast and Bulldoze. So Wild Charge here costing 50 for 90 damage at a 1.8. Of course we do not carry that electric typing, so no stab. Crunch here for 45, we do get 70 damage at a 1.56. Yet again, not dark type, no stab. And then Flamethrower for 55 energy, we do get 90 damage at a 1.64. After stab though, it does get bumped up to 108 on the damage for a 1.96, which is pretty gnarly. Considering that Flamethrower is a stab based move, I do think there is some merits to having it. If for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable running either Wild Charge or Crunch, like let's say you already have a really good Generalist on the team, you don't really need dark type damage because it's not going to be super effective to a ton of things in the cup. Let's say you already have your anti-confusion user covered and you just don't need Crunch, then I definitely think Flamethrower is a-okay to go with. Or if you already have a purely electric type Pokemon on your team, then maybe Wild Charge isn't necessarily needed. Like you can kind of switch between those three. For the purposes of this video, we did go with Wild Charge and Crunch only because they do actually cost the least amount of energy to actually fire, and they actually put up some of the best numbers inside of these simulations here. So now it comes down to either Fire Fang or Snarl. And to get a little bit deeper into that, we're going to actually move into our shields here and we're going to look through some percentages. And starting off with Snarl here on the left, we do have this 0 versus 0, 43.5% versus a 41 for Fire Fang. Alright, so straight off the bat, Snarl takes it. Then we do have this 2 versus 0, which is a 92.4 for Snarl and an 89.1 for Fire Fang, so gotta give that one to Snarl there. Then in the 0 versus 2, we do have this 0%, holy goose egg, and then we do have a 16.3 in the Fire Fang, so we gotta give it to that. Now in this 2v2, here's where it like really just blew my mind, because Snarl only wins 14.1%. That's really low. Whereas Fire Fang here does have the 46.7. So that's interesting. We're still stuck with kind of a split decision here. We have two shield situations where we do really good. We have two shield situations where we do really good for both sides. So I then took and pretty much run a spreadsheet to figure out how we actually did comparing each move side by side. So as it seems like in most deep dives these days, we're actually going to be pulling up this spreadsheet. Of course, I will leave this, I've been leaving them in a comment just because I've been forgetting to put them in the description. So you'll either find this specific spreadsheet in the description. I'll actually probably start doing it in the comments because there's already the Pokemon PvP spreadsheet in the description. So to kind of do less clunkiness, I'll probably just keep putting these in the comments. But so we do have our Pokemon here in our first column, then we have Fire Fang in our second, and then we have Snarl in the third. And then in this last column over here on the right, we do have a results tab, and generally that just tells us which one we should be using based on which battle rating is higher. Now, this does not mean that that move is necessarily going to win the matchup or lose the matchup. What this means is that that move has a better battle rating. So like in the Azumarill matchup, you can see we still lose whether we use Fire Fang or Snarl. We're going to lose both scenarios, but Snarl performs better as we do have a better battle rating. Let's actually go through some of these here. So the Azumarill, the Beedrill is actually pretty gnarly because with Fire Fang we straight up win. If we run Snarl, we straight up lose. Then we do have the Blastoise and the Charizard, which Snarl actually allows us to tie in the Charizard, and Snarl actually does a little bit better for Blastoise, but we still end up losing in that Blastoise matchup, so I definitely think Snarl takes it there. Then we have this little string here of Execute, Executor, Fortress, and Ivysaur. All of those are doing better with Fire Fang, and that makes a lot of sense considering that we do have the Fire type up against the Grass type there is of course going to do better. Then we do have Kingdra, which Snarl allows us to win. Then we do have Lantern, which Snarl allows us to do just a tad bit better, but we still lose. Then we do have Lapras, which we still lose, but Snarl does better. Magcargo, Snarl does better, but we still lose. Then we have Mantine, which Snarl actually wins in that Mantine matchup, but we lose with Fire Fang. Okay. Fire Fang does allow us to tie up against Meganium while straight up losing with Snarl. Then Ninetales is actually a complete win with Snarl, but a loss with our Fire Fang there. And then we do have Quagsire, which we'd still lose on both sides, but Fire Fang actually surprisingly does a little bit better. Then we do have Raichu, which we still lose up against, but Fire Fang here again does a little bit better. Slowbro, Snarl actually just flat out lets us win that one. That makes a lot of sense considering that Fire Fang would be resisted when Snarl is super effective. So, okay. Venomoth, Victory Bell, and Venusaur there, rounding out the bottom three. Of course, Fire Fang is going to do better up against those, considering that it is a fire type move going up against the grass types. So, after you look through all that, after you fill through all that stuff, Fire Fang actually does better 11 out of the 21 times, whereas Snarl only does better 10 out of the 21 times. So, that actually means that Fire Fang just barely inches it out right here. So I was like, well, I mean, that's still pretty close. Like, I mean, could you definitively say that Fire Fang is better just because it wins one more matchup? If we actually go a little bit deeper and we go into all of the Pokemon inside of the cup here, you can actually see every single matchup that you want to know about. Now, of course, with the meta page here, we do have movesets like predetermined by PvPoke, whereas in the all Pokemon section, PvPoke is going to prioritize the moves that are better up against our Arcanine. If we have a Pokemon like Slowbro going up against our Arcanine here, it's probably going to prioritize Water Gun over that Confusion because Water Gun is going to be super effective. It's just the way that the system works. So sometimes these may a little bit be askewed, but it's kind of a rough idea of how we're going to do here. So if we look through these, I'm not going to go through all these, that would be insanely long, but there are some that we do the same in, like this top one here with Ampharos. We do the same no matter which move we actually have. And then you can kind of see that it just kind of goes down, 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 all the way until we get to this very bottom one here. And we can see our results. This is where Fire Fang really started to show up for me, because 50 times out of the 92 matchups that we have here, it's doing better than Snarl. Snarl actually only does better than Fire Fang 39 matchups out of the 92. The other unaccounted for matchups are the same ones, like that War Turtle that you can kind of see there. So, what that actually tells me is that Fire Fang not only is going to win one more matchup in the meta section, but it's actually going to help us be more of a generalist. Oddly enough, even though Snarl would be neutral to most of the meta, and it actually has better energy gains, its low amount of damage really does make it less of a generalist move here, whereas Fire Fang really helps out in this cup. Especially Fire Fang being super effective to both grass and bug types in this cup, really does help it put up these really good numbers. So, for that reason right there, we're actually going to go with Fire Fang, Wild Charge, and Crunch as our moveset, which that actually takes us into our matchup section here. So we do have all of the meta actually written down here, the 21 meta Pokemon that we actually have. And since we've already kind of brushed up on these, we're just going to kind of go over this and just kind of quickly run through these. So we do have Fortress, Venusaur, Beedrill, Venomoth, Victreebel, Exeggutor, Ivysaur, and Execute all as wins. All of those pretty much make a good bit of sense because they're all weak to fire in some fashion. Then we do have Meganium here, which is a tie, by the way, but kinda interesting that we tie up against it. You gotta remember, it also does have Earthquake, so in the 1v1, if it can shield bait you with a Frenzy Plant and then hit you with an Earthquake, it is gonna be pretty good on that. And the fact that we don't have a Fire-type charge move on this specific moveset does end up meaning that we have to basically rely on Fire Fang, and because Meganium is super bulky, as it is, it kind of does allow it to tie there. Then we do have the Raichu, Charizard, Ninetales, Lapras, Quagsire, Slowbro, Blastoise, Kingdra, Mantine, Azumarill, Lantern, and Magcargo. And most of those make sense there. So Raichu's basically, it's going to be neutral versus neutral. Charizard, he's got like flying type moves, and he is probably the best fire type out there for this cup. I'm gonna say it, okay? As much as it literally kills me to say it, I'm gonna say it. Ninetales is going to be able to hit some neutral damage here or there. It's going to kind of be a similar situation. I definitely think that Arcanine, after doing this research, is the budget Ninetales. Just throwing that out there. Then we do have all of the water types starting to show up there, and Macargo. Actually, our hardest matchup is against the fire type itself, which I thought was interesting. Now we're actually going to be moving on into our countering section, and down in our countering section here, we do have some very interesting things. So what we're actually going to do in this countering section is we're going to run over to PV Poke. We're going to set up our Arcanine here with Fire Fang, Crunch, and Wild Charge, just like we talked about. Give ourselves one shield, give our opponent one shield. We're going to go up the entire Rainbow Cup here. We're going to make sure we hit battle, refresh this list just in case I had anything weird up here before. Then we're going to go in and we're going to type in Bug, our first typing here. So you can see we do have all written down for Bug. That means we are going to beat every single Bug type Pokemon here. You can actually see Ladian is the roughest matchup for us, which even then it's still a pretty solid win. Heracross is also giving us a little bit of problem. My boy repping that battle rating there. I'm loving it. Then we do have Venomoth, Butterfree rounding out the bottom ones. Those are confusion users. So even though they do push a bit of neutral damage, they are going to be taking quite a bit of super effective damage, which does make a lot of sense. Next, moving into the grass typing, we do have one tie written here. And can you guess who that tie is? We've already talked about him today. It's going to be the Meganium. So the Meganium still is able to tie no matter what we kind of throw at it here. You can kind of see with that Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, Earthquake moveset, it is really solid up against this. Then we do have that Celebi, that Execute, that Blossom, and Executor there rounding out some pretty rough matchups. And then Parasect being, you know, super duper weak to fire is pretty rough there. But Ivysaur pretty much taking it in the... Next we do have our electric types, which as you can see here, we do have 4 wins, but we've switched from the green side here to the red side. So that means we're going to start losing a lot more for these countering sections here. So this electric typing is one of those that we start to do pretty bad up against. Magneton and Magnemite, Zapdos and Ampharos are pretty okay, but after that it does get a pretty bit sticky here. So Jolteon, Flaffy, Electabuzz, Raikou, Electrode, Raichu, Chinchou, and Lantern are the hardest few matchups down there at the bottom. So the electric typing is not looking too good. Now we do move on to our own typing here, that fire typing, and we kind of suck up against our fire typing here. We only have 1 win, which is Quilava. After that, it's pretty much a wash. So we have Flareon, Rapidash, Magmar, Growlithe, Magby, all the way down here to the bottom where Macargo yet again shows up at a really hard matchup. Ninetales, Ho-Oh, I don't foresee many people using that. And then Houndoom also showing up there. Pretty rough up against our own typing there, which is kind of a bummer, but kind of to be expected, I guess. Last but not least here, we are going to look at the water typing, which as you can see, it's pretty bad. We do actually end up, well, I wrote all, but it should have been 1 tie and then everything else. So we do tie up against the Cloyster here, and then we just pretty much lose every other matchup from there. So Tentacruel's kind of close, Kingler's kind of close. It's not really looking too hot there. You can see Kabutops, Amistar, and Poliwrath are our 3 worst matchups, all of those being really, really difficult for our Arcanine. So, with that being our last deep dive for the Rainbow Cup, I definitely think that the Rainbow Cup has been very, very interesting. I actually do think that the Gen 1 and Gen 2 restriction is pretty interesting after spending a good 4 weeks looking at these Pokemon for literally every day. It's pretty interesting because it allows certain Pokemon to come out and to kind of let their freak flag fly. Arcanine being one of those, actually. I don't think many people would be talking about Arcanine if possibly Gen 3 and Gen 4 were included in this, because it does introduce a lot more fire types that would overshadow Arcanine. I definitely think that Ninetales is kind of in there as well, because like I said with Ninetales, I've said it in previous videos that Ninetales has just kind of been overlooked for months now because it just kind of always gets overshadowed by different fire types. So I definitely do think that this month was very interesting. I'm really, really looking forward to the announcement that we should get today. As of today, when this video goes up, that announcement should be coming out. I do have class on Mondays, which just drives me insane because I want to, like, as soon as they make this announcement, I want to, like, let's make this video like ASAP. Like, I'm so excited. I love whenever a new cup gets announced. It's so fun to immediately start sifting through all these Pokemon. So I'm really excited for that, but I also want to know, what are your guys' predictions for the next cup? What typings do you think we'll see? Do you think they'll go back to 4 typings? Do you think we'll even go back to a 3 typing cup like we did with Nightmare? Do you guys like 5 typings? I kind of think 5 typings was pretty cool because it does introduce a lot of like overlap with certain weaknesses, and it introduces a ton of Pokemon. We for once had pure like mono water types introduced, which was pretty freaking amazing. But let me know what you guys think about the Rainbow Cup in whole. Of course, we still do have 2 full weeks worth of tournaments for the Rainbow Cup as of today. So considering that this video is going up on Monday, and I will probably not be able to play outside of going to class on Monday and then trying to do the new cup announcement Monday evening. On Tuesday, I fully plan to start doing some battles because I have yet to practice for the Rainbow Cup in the slightest, and I need to get on that. So look forward to that. Those videos will probably start trickling out later this week, and I will try my hardest. I'm really bad at this, but I seriously will try my hardest to have at least some more battle videos than usual because I honestly think I just need to practice more. Like, it's just the thing that I need to do. But anyways, that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out this month. Thank you so much for watching all of the Rainbow Cup videos. Thank you guys, every single one of you that watches these videos, because it's been amazing. Like, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Looking forward to next cup. Make sure you let me know what you have thoughts on down in the comments below. And yeah, so always remember that if you like to like videos, you can do that. But if you don't, whatever, be that guy. Otherwise, hit me up in the comments below. And until our next video, I will catch you then.